Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Steve Broughton and this is Dr. Angie Dunn with Light Dental Studios. And welcome back to our segment called Sound People. Today we have with us Shaun Broback from Crocketts Restaurant Group, and he's going to share with us his entrepreneurial journey.
So Shaun, I would like to know your story. How did you wind up at this place where you have 5 restaurants? You know, what were you like as a kid that you go, hey, I'm going to do this? Or how did you end up here?
It's a big question. I took my first restaurant job when I was in high school. I needed some money and I had some free time, and I started as a dishwasher and a salad bar attendant in a restaurant that was down the street from my house. Continuing on in restaurants, after I graduated from high school, I took a job at a restaurant down near the Kingdom, and it was a very, very busy restaurant. So baseball games, Seahawks games, those types of events, concerts, etc. There were so many people that came into the restaurant. It was so busy and had so much energy that I really enjoyed that. It was fun for me. There was a lot of money to be made in that environment, and so I continued on as a server and a bartender. I had been working in restaurants for 20 years before I owned my own restaurant. Some people could do it faster than that, but that's how long it took me.
Can you think of a struggle that you would share with people where you say, hey, I went through this and wasn't sure I was going to make it out the other end of it?
You know, I had a business degree and I had great job experience and I had great credit, and I filled out SBA applications.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to get any.
Wow.
But what I did do, and this was in 2005, is they were sending out a lot of pre-approved credit cards then with, and I don't know if you all recall, but they had don't do this. They had transfer checks associated with them. Well, I saved a bunch of those up.
Oh no.
And one afternoon, I sat down in my kitchen and I filled out a bunch. And
oh my gosh.
yeah. And I started getting credit cards in the mail with sizable limits on them, but also, importantly, these transfer checks with them. And so what I did was I used the transfer checks. Again, don't do this. And I would pay, somebody to do something to help build the restaurant, and then I was transferring my balances back and forth. And a large part of what I did, I built on credit cards. Now, you couldn't do that today because it's completely different.
The heartburn, I bet.
Yeah, and it worked out great. Once things settled down. Now, at some point, the credit card companies figured out what I had done, so they said, well, we're going to reduce your credit line, etc. But I paid it all back and made the payments, and I had a little bit of money help from my family as well that helped. But
That's
I
a lot of sleepless
I did all
nights.
of the work.
Yeah.
Well, my first restaurant was Trackside Pizza.
Okay.
And I opened that in 2006.
Wow.
Had some good success with that over a period of years, and the building next door to Trackside became available. And having come from Seattle area restaurants, pizza wasn't what I had spent my career doing.
Sure.
I wanted to open a full service restaurant with a full menu, and that's what we decided to do in the Crocketts restaurant space. And we opened that in 2011.
So you opened Crocketts in 2011. When were you guys on the diners, drive-ins, and dives?
The beginning of, I guess it would have been 2012, or maybe the end of 2011. It happened pretty fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We weren't open for very long before I was contacted by the production company for that show and started conversations with them.
Was that a pretty neat experience going through the filming and?
It was terrifying. We interviewed for several months, actually. So I had to do a phone interview a couple of different times. Some of my employees did. We sent them recipes, pictures of the facility. They did research, and then I didn't hear from them for months. And they called me up and said, well, you made the show and you have to close for 3 days. And we'll be there on this date. You're going to close for those days. No business, which really gave me fits because I was a new business owner, and Guy wasn't there for most of the time. His production crew spent 2.5 days staging and doing the work and filming and getting things put together. And Guy showed up on the last day. He was there for maybe 3 hours.
You know, having watched the show a few times, that there's always kind of that signature dish that creates that popularity.
Yeah, I like talking about it.
Yeah.
So when we were interviewing for the show, they went through our menu and selected the items that they wanted. And I think Guy actually selected them. And my understanding was he said, well, I want to see these items. And what we had to do was turn in recipes, and then they're no longer our recipes. So we gave them up and decided that we were going to show our Sloppy Joe sandwich, a fire-grilled artichoke that we make, as well as what we call public house meatballs, which are just meatballs and no pasta.
Yeah.
Right. And
I've read the reviews; they're very popular.
yeah. Well, what we had to do was once we were on the show, there's now a section of our menu that says these items, and we've kept them in that section for the entire time. So one of the problems that we've had is we have to source artichokes all year round,
Sure.
not just when they're in season here. So even in the off season, they're being shipped in from other places.
Where do you get them from?
Well, we get them from our food distributor.
Okay.
But they come in from Mexico and other places. It just depends. But of course, in the winter, the price goes up pretty significantly to buy those things.
But then to do it the way that you've done it, where you've built multiple businesses, I think it's just pretty extraordinary. And I didn't know if maybe you could share with people some of your thoughts on what you think drives you and has caused you to be successful at what you do. If there's a couple things that you might share with people.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really stubborn, for starters. You know, I got an idea and I don't give up on it, which has been really important for me. You know, what it is that the customer wants from you, not just what you want to provide for them, but getting to the bottom of that for yourself and for myself has been really important to understand how to make the restaurants work. Every time I open a new building, there's a lot of nervousness involved because it's a tremendous investment. The entire, not just a financial investment, but the entire company invests in that, and all the training and the employees working together.
How long does it take you typically to get the restaurant up and going where you can see it on a level of where you can say this thing's becoming profitable now?
Yeah. For me, that never happens.
Okay.
It's always a work in progress. It's always something that we're trying to improve. There's no finish line. But for the initial anxiety, you know, typically in my experience, the hardest part about restaurants is getting it open and getting it running and finding a routine. And that usually takes maybe, well, I'll give you an example. I worked on Crocketts in Maple Valley for 2 years before it actually opened.
Yeah.
Just there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then for an additional 6 months after it opened, that time period for me was the hardest part. Not necessarily for the employees. So in that case, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
What we really work to do is to hire and retain people that embrace that type of work environment, that appreciate having standards and accountability and responsibility. And when we provide them that information and they execute on that, then we all get to have some success together.
Sure.
And then we share in our failures together as well. So about culture, it's worked for us that if we create a certain environment and certain expectations, the people that we want to work with and that want to work with us, they tend to stay.
So what is the spectrum of the customer experience that you have, you know, going through COVID? And you said you hired drivers for takeout, but there's obviously still a dine-in experience. Kind of what is that range that you're able to offer at this point?
Yeah. We're trying to give people as many options as they would like to have to order, from If you don't want to interact with us personally at all, you just want to, place an online order and then we'll bring it to your car. Some people are coming in and grabbing that order and taking it. We're following, the policies and procedures and guidelines, so you have to wear a mask when you come in, and there's a certain amount of distance we have between tables, and we're doing those types of things, and if you're comfortable doing that, we can do that with you as well. And we're just trying to provide as much ease for people depending upon how they feel and what their comfort level is for them to be able to get our food.
Well, thank you so much for coming today and spending time with us, and I hope you all got something out of Shaun's story. Just a remarkable guy, and we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. We both won a community award.
Yeah, from Showcase
Yes,
magazine.
from Showcase.
Voted on by the people. They love Crocketts.
Yep. But that's how we met a couple of years ago, and I've always enjoyed our conversations and wanted to be able to share your story with our audience. So
yeah, thanks so much.
you
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.